Hi, this is Eric Olson, and I'd like to share with you this case study. The person that is a dear, dear friend of mine, Carolyn Yaggie-Heinen, who's the owner of Michelle Kendrick Hair Studio and Spa. And I met Carolyn some years ago and worked with her, and it was an amazing experience for both of us, I can say honestly. Carolyn, when I met her, was the absolute classic entrepreneur. She was a ball of fire. She's just absolutely unlimited energy, and she was by far the top producer in her business. She ran her company with what I call the mother hen school of management, in that she'd just sit and cluck, 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 cluck on everything, make sure everything was just so. She was an extraordinarily gifted leader. But as leaders oftentimes do, she'd oftentimes lose control over the details. Carolyn's kind of she would tell you she's an A, B, C, X, Y, Z kind of person, and then it's something magic happens in the middle, and she's not really all that concerned with what that magic is, just that it happens. Well, uh, so that's a classic entrepreneur. The problem was that even though she was working really hard, she wasn't making all that much money. Certainly, absolutely not enough to justify all the extra work that it takes to run a business, much less the risk, the financial risk and investment of being an owner instead of an employee. And so, of course, she was just outrageously frustrated. And Carolyn knew exactly where she wanted to go, but she was really at a loss for figuring out how to get there. And as we all get, she had gotten to the point where she didn't know what she didn't know. And if she knew what else to do, she'd have already done it. And so she felt very stuck. And Carolyn is the kind of person who, if she feels stuck, you better watch out, because that's not going to last long. Now, of course, things came to a head because Carolyn confided in me that at the end of the day, she was in so much pain, her arm felt as if it was just going to fall off, or she hoped that it was going to fall off. And she had to spend the entire evening icing it every night just to be able to get through the very next day. And eventually it got so bad that she actually had to go to the doctor. She didn't know what to do about this. And he diagnosed her with repetitive stress injury, which apparently, I didn't know this, but is very common in the industry. He even told her that if she didn't quit cutting hair, she could end up with permanent nerve damage in that arm. And so obviously things had to change, and they had to change quickly. Now, of course, she worried about how is she going to be able to afford getting help if the business wasn't making enough money to really justify its own existence just for her. And she couldn't see how she was going to pay for it. And that really worried her. But then again, she then looked at the cost of what was going to happen if she didn't take action to get that help. What was going to happen if she just stayed where she was? If she decided that she couldn't tolerate that. And so eventually Carolyn decided to take action. She took action very quickly. The results were within 78 days that overall sales of the studio were up by 34%. And product sales, which are very high margin and had no additional overhead, had climbed by 45%. New client acquisition costs plummeted from over $150, which is about the industry standard, to less than $17 per new client. So almost a 90% reduction in new client acquisition costs. Now, obviously, that meant that the marketing budget could be changed, and all the marketing dollars that didn't need to be spent went straight to the bottom line. New client retention went up from 33%, which is an industry high, to 51%, which is absolutely unheard of. In fact, she was grilled by Aveda as to what the best practices were, and they even took a lot of those best practices and launched them nationwide. Her customer referrals went up by over 300%, and net profits were way up, even though she had the added expense of hiring professional help. All that within 78 days. But that's not the good news. Believe it or not, this is the good news. See, all of that happened while we took Carolyn out of her role as the #1 money producer. She stopped cutting hair completely and added no revenue to the company. And in addition to that, we took her #2 revenue producer, Jenny, and we moved her to half-time. The reason being that Jenny turned out to be an absolutely exquisite natural manager, just as Carolyn is an exquisite natural leader. And so Jenny complemented her just amazingly, and they made a very, very powerful team. And so Jenny took on all of those managerial duties and all of the detail work. And so that freed Carolyn up to focus on designing a business that would work for her rather than, as most of us experience, owning a business that allows us to work for it. So the difference was absolutely astounding. First, Carolyn doubled the size of her original location. She went through a huge expansion and facelift, and it was exquisite. And then second, she opened up another location. So essentially, within less than 18 months, she increased the size of her business by 400%. Now, funny enough, as a result of going through all of this transformation and taking control of the business and being in control of the business instead of being swamped by it, she was so in control that the bankers ended up lining up trying and competing for her business, because they would say to her things like, "We've never had an entrepreneur who knew their numbers so well, so inside and out. We want to do business with you." Because they believed in her. It wasn't just we're going to work real hard, and if the creek don't rise, things will, turn out. In her own words, "Eric's been wonderful in helping me grow and expand my business. He was instrumental in creating new and innovative ways to overhaul my marketing, expand my sales, and create new management systems." Carolyn Yaggie-Heinen. So now I'd like to invite you to become my next case study, to experience that transformation that Carolyn experienced, to make more money, work less, and have more fun. For a complimentary one-on-one strategy session, I'd like you to contact me at ericsolson.com/get-return-on-life. That's Eric, ERIK-S-Olson, OLSON.com/get-return-on-life. And I'd love to be able to do a case study on it for you too. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.